Just an hour outside Chicago is Rockford, Illinois, the site of the 2026 USA Ultimate D1 College Championships. We've already seen one double game point thriller here in the women's semifinal stage of the bracket. And we got another tasty matchup coming your way. It's the UBC Thunderbirds squaring off against Stanford Superfly. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ultiworld. Ian Toner alongside Katie Killebrew. Katie, we got the defending champs going up against the 8-time champs for a chance to play in the game to be the champs again. What are you expecting here this evening?
I don't know, honestly. I think I'm really going to base it off the first couple of points because Stanford wasn't really expected to be here, and their zone is going to have to stand for itself against this UBC side.
Rockford known for its windy nature. We've seen the intensity of the wind fluctuating all tournament long. Stanford's been able to rely on that zone and architect some incredible victories on a path here to the semifinals. Perhaps nothing more heroic than that 14-12 victory over UC Santa Cruz in the quarterfinals. Stanford was down 12-10. We'll show you highlights from that in a second. And British Columbia, relatively untested, a 15-8 victory over Quandary in the quarterfinals. Here's the last 5 head-to-head matchups. These teams have each won one game against each other in 2026. Interesting, you go back through the history books to 2014, which is as far back as Ultiverse and Ulti-Razor go. These teams have never met at Nationals before, UBC with the 8-2 edge. And here's a look at this unbelievable comeback from Stanford against Santa Cruz. Sage McGinley-Smith with the electric toe-the-line grab in the back corner.
I mean, Santa Cruz had gotten the best of Stanford over and over again this season. This game was their 7th meeting in this season. Stanford won the arguably most important one, though, in this quarterfinal.
Yeah, Stanford 1-5 against Santa Cruz before that victory. And here's a look at the UBC win over Colorado Quandary. I think Quandary was hanging around in the first half, but as that game went on, the UBC system, discipline, and star power just reigning supreme.
Yeah, discipline is certainly the word. They will figure things out. They will make adjustments as a team, and they will just grind you into the ground with their cuts, with their defensive pressure. It's pretty there, but this player, Esther Filipek, is going to try to make a difference against that defense. Esther is a player, 5th year, had missed last season with an ACL, and is really known as Neo, the heart of this team, and is such a dynamic thrower. That lefty flick can make an absolute dagger into other things and throw over zones, and that kind of shape changing is something that UBC is certainly going to have to deal with.
She's ready. The gun show is out and shining here in the sunshine, and Esther can do it not just with the disc in her hand, but also when the team needs her to get the ball back.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I've been most impressed with coming back from injury is how hard Esther has worked to regain the foot speed in order to be a defensive presence, really a difficult player, and that's why she crosses over so much. We'll see her on offense and defense very regularly for this Superfly team. Not super tall, but will definitely be in that deep space, and somebody she's going to have to defend is Mika Kurahashi. Mika spent most of this season out with injury, but played for Team Canada. World Games player, has played U20s, U24s, you name it. One of the most recognized players in Canada Frisbee, national Frisbee and international Frisbee, and there's a reason why. She is an absolute powerhouse on the field, and she is so difficult to stop on both sides of the disc. Throwing prowess and speedy changes of direction. She's been a huge add back to this UBC team as they try to climb the mountain again.
Yeah, she endured a concussion, the second of her career, from a bid in the Santa Barbara Invite Final against Carleton, the team that they could be playing in the final tomorrow, and recovery was pretty slow for her. She mentioned she had to take a couple weeks off school and work, deal with headaches, but she has not appeared to be limited here at the College Championships as we get underway in the second women's semifinal. British Columbia in the white jerseys attacking from left to right across your screen, starting on offense. The starters for the Thunderbirds: Claire Wang, Nina Tsai, Ella Bolin. Deep shot going up. Too far. Mandy Lee, Grace Liu, Jamie Jung, and Mika Kurahashi. The intended receiver there, but the huck a little too far.
My guess is also that we're going to see both of these teams. They both played on this field, but today the wind is pretty intense in this kind of sunset round.
We've got Manisha Daryani as part of our broadcast team as well. We'll check in with her throughout this game, try and get a sense of what it feels like down there on the field. Here's a look at the Stanford starters: Philippek, Davy Weir, Sage McGinley-Smith, Siobhan Yip, Annika Kwan, who has a second broken finger sustained here at this tournament, Nicole Lambert, and Freya Speaker-Cotter. There's a foul called on the break chance here on the opening point for Stanford. The intended receiver, Siobhan Yip. And the Thunderbird defender does not contest. That was Mandy Lee with some contact against Yip. Deep shot here going down the same third. And Sage McGinley-Smith calling a foul on the UBC defender, Nina Tsai.
Here's another look at that throw from Philippek, and you can see that the defender actually had position. McGinley-Smith trying to go over the top, but the defender is entitled to the space.
Do we? So lengthy discussion ensuing here. McGinley-Smith was able to reach up with her left hand. And the observer rules no foul, so Stanford's break chance goes to the turf. One turnover apiece.
I think that's the correct outcome of that. The defender is also entitled to the space that they are already in.
UBC's offense in a horizontal set here. Are you surprised to see no clear zone right here from Stanford?
Well, I think it's what UBC expected. And if there's anything we know about the Stanford coaches is they will do what you don't expect. So did
UBC on the move there, but the disc is dropped by Nina Tsai. And Philippek with another chance to architect a break here for Stanford. Yip up line. Power position. Motioning. Leading McGinley-Smith downfield. What a grab there on the sideline. Nicole Lambert stays in bounds. Lambert shooting cross field. Going to the back line. Can McGinley-Smith stay in? The observers rule McGinley-Smith out.
As a stall 9 bailout hug, that was almost perfect. 3 UBC defenders getting in that space and just can't get the toe in bounds. The blue line is the important one on the field there, and it looks like an injury substitution has happened.
So Emily Marshall coming on for the T-Birds. Unless I missed something, I didn't see a substitution for Stanford.
I also did not notice one. But I was pretty focused on looking again at that McGinley-Smith almost.
Big swing out to space, opening up the field to Jamie Jung. Claire Wang. Up the line, there's a touch for Kurahashi. Here's a leading throw, looking for Marshall, and instead it's caught by her teammate. That's Claire Wang. In Claire, the T-Birds trust.
Very much. Claire's one of the receivers for the Thunderbirds I've actually been most impressed with this season in terms of the growth, the usage of her in the deep space. Maybe it looks a little assuming and other teams just not picking up. But a lot of times they're going to put this up. You can see how well she reads it, gets underneath it, and goes. McGinley-Smith did not do a good job of positioning there. Maybe a little bit too horizontal and not looking right at the players in the space.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been surprised to see a card issued there.
I also want to highlight that Speaker Cotter did a great job of steadying the player there to make sure that was nothing other than prioritizing other player safety. So I wanted to highlight that not every player is.
No team has scored more than 8 goals against British Columbia on its road to the semis. Stanford, on the other hand, upset by UPenn on Friday and had to go through the pre-quarters, and they were dead to rights against Santa Cruz. Seoul was up 12-10, had previously taken half 8-7, and then it was a 4-0 run from Superfly with some heroics from McGinley-Smith, Philippek, and others to get the victory with the season on the line. And here's McGinley-Smith with another touch, putting Philippek in power position, a leading throw to space, and it's just a hair too far for the bidding Amelia Hawkins, the 22-year-old from Kirkland, Washington.
There's another look at it. So close, could have been in bounds, but needed another little bit of gas to get that one in the hand.
Marshall swinging. And here's the transition zone from Stanford. They've got at least 4 or 5 different defensive zone sets that they can deploy against their opponents. And here's a throw that goes well over the foundation of that zone, and UBC is off to the races near midfield. Lisa Ng resetting to Marshall. Marshall faking, trying to knife through. Too far for the bidding receiver. That was Ng once again. Upfield to Hawkins now for Stanford. Offhand into space. Here's the throw, trying to lead Dora McCotter-Hewlett, but too much on that one from Harper Bear.
Yeah, Stanford is maybe exhibiting a few more nerves for me than UBC, just overthrowing. UBC's been playing this zone and trying to go over the top into the soft spot created behind the cup before the deep, which is Esther Philippek in the back.
This swing goes for a little ride, but the T-Birds save it. Brielle Wong swinging for Marshall, who has to hit the turf to save that one. Marshall's done a great job throwing it over this front wall and facets of this zone early on here. If there's any team here that you think has the patience and the system and the formula to navigate a Stanford zone, you'd think it might be the T-Birds, but a turnover there, giving a short field to Philippek and company. Inside to Bear. Swing to McGinley-Smith. Offhand to the front of the end zone, and there's Dora McCotter-Hewlett getting Superfly on the board. Let's bring in the third member of our broadcast team. Wonderful to have Manisha Daryani with us. Slap, what's it sounding like? What's it feeling like? What's it looking like down there on the field?
Well, I got to tell you right now, it is Battle of the Nations. The crowd down here chanting USA, USA, a nod to our neighbors from the north, UBC coming in from Canada. The support clearly for Superfly here.
And do you have a thought or a feeling on exactly which way the wind is going and how specifically that's challenging throwers, or can't you tell from your perch on the sideline?
So it's definitely an upwind, downwind. For those of you at home, the wind is moving from the left of your screen to the right. That's one of the reasons you're seeing a lot of these throws, particularly for Stanford, carrying so far into this end zone. The challenge, however, is that the wind has not been consistent. And so there's instances in which it starts to get really still, and these throwers can really manipulate this wind, and then there'll be a random gust of wind that pops up, and it's creating some of these harder catches on both sides of the team.
Awesome insight, and we'll definitely be checking back in to see what you're noticing and feeling down there, Slap, as the T-Birds O-line gets back out there. Here's the crafty handler, Ella Bolin. That one knifes through the first layer of the zone. What are you seeing from this structure here, Katie?
They're trapping it on the sideline, which overloads the defenders on one side, but once it gets to the other side, it's off to the races, and sometimes you can get turns like that where they're just moving a little bit too fast to try to escape the cup getting there.
Oh, and Davey Weir not on the same page with the intended receiver. Throws that skinny reset into the head of the UBC defender, and then Superfly gets it right back thanks to Sorika Weir. Can Superfly value this one? Not before the T-Birds can knock it to the turf. Back and forth we go here in the semis. Jung. Bolin with a blade. Finds the soft spot expertly. And the continuation, easy money for Freya. Speaker caught her, and then did she turf that? Katie, I thought that was down when I watched it live. I don't know if you saw it differently.
I also thought that was down.
Oh, so down, uncontested. Play restarts in the check from Dark.
Thanks for the clear communication from observer Sam Shapiro, who was up in the booth with us last round, and Freya knew a wasted chance there, and a short field now for the T-Birds. Blade down the line, off the hands of Claire Wang.
What that defense is doing is making resets really difficult. They're saying, we dare you to go over the top. We dare you to go into those other spaces. We know we have fewer defenders in that area, but that throw is going to be extraordinarily difficult. So the defense is doing what it's designed to do, but Stanford hasn't been able to connect many passes in a row to try to punch in the counter break.
Throw down the line. And the deepest players at the point of release there were T-Birds.
Yeah, so if you've been watching Ultimate for a while, you might recognize this as a huck and zone kind of an offense. They are putting the disc as far away from the other team's end zone as they can, and they're going to set this really difficult trap cup again. We can see Ella Bolin talking about that double team. You can only have one player guarding within 10 feet.
UBC working it up to midfield. Kurahashi going with the flow. Bolin surveying inside, and it's behind the intended receiver. Nina Tsai was able to get a hand on it, but the throw kind of put her in an awkward spot. Stanford with another break chance on this point. Here's a punt. Can Speaker Cotter make a play in bounds? Ruled out of bounds, but fortunately for Superfly, Fry had touched it over there, and now hucking back the other way. Speaker Cotter defending, and Speaker Cotter makes up the ground to slot that one to the turf.
And Speaker Cotter didn't wait, right? Knew that it wasn't inbounds and immediately started sprinting to be the deep. What a dig!
Incredible save there from Lambert. Harper Bear then throws it away. 6 turns apiece on the 3rd point of this semifinal. And Ella Bolin calls a timeout, burning UBC's first of 2 on just the 3rd point of the game. Turnovers left and right. Tensions rising here in Rockford. UBC and Stanford all tied up at 1 here in the semis. Turnovers apiece here on the 3rd point of the game, and we're starting to see some intentional strategic shifts here. If you can't find anybody nearby, huck and play deep.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen some incredible plays on both sides. UBC is definitely going to be upset that they haven't been able to punch it into that end zone. They've been so close, but they've asked their players to do too much, and that kind of frustration can add up. I think it was a really smart timeout call from Ella Bolin, the captain of this team, to take a minute to talk about the strategy and emotionally reset, because this offensive line, is going to have to do this all game long.
Nice find there to Kurahashi. Bolin up to Jung. Here's Wang in the red zone. Flips it to Bolin. Bolin is in. And that timeout really must have solved something for this offense.
There's a lot to be said for taking a timeout and a little bit of a whiteboard and a marker and talking about where the soft spots in the zone are, how to break it. Understanding how to do it or where the thing is gives you a game plan, a first step. And there's something about the comfort of knowing this. And then once they go, Ella Bolin, one of the handlers, goes and runs past that fleet of defenders to get to the next space.
Well, it's been a different season for British Columbia. For so long, they kind of considered themselves the underdog. And last season, they captured their 2nd national title in program history. And they're now appearing in their 8th semifinal. And they said it's kind of been different dealing with the mentality of having the target on their back, being the team that everyone wants to beat. And it's required a lot of discipline, a lot of grinding, and a lot of focus to kind of sustain that championship level commitment. Edward Guo and Jonathan He and Victoria Lamb leading the coaching staff for the T-Birds, as Philippek's initiating throw goes incomplete, and Stanford sets up its transition zone. Of course, the Stanford program, no stranger to this stage as well. Superfly playing in its 19th semifinal. Got some decorated coaches of their own as well. Robin Davis, Shayla Harris, McKinley McQuaid, and Macy Valbrecht. Izzy Lynn trying to connect with Marshall, but that one's incomplete. McGinley Smith all alone. Plenty of time. Looking for Bear. The observers say that disc was up and Bear was inbounds. And Stanford gets the dirty hold.
Crowd's starting to get into it in this third semifinal.
Well, it's funny. You point out those chants. Slap was talking about hearing the USA chants. This isn't the first time that the T-Birds have had to deal with that kind of pressure. I think back to the semifinals in Ohio a couple years ago, going up against Quandary, when the entire crowd was similarly chanting USA and rooting against the Canadian side.
Yeah, Miko Kurahashi actually talked about that in terms of the mental prep going into last season and this season, and how for that particular semifinal they were unprepared for the crowd noise, and they were unexpecting the what they felt like was the crowd being against them. And having weathered the storm of losing in that game when they were one of the top teams in the country has, I think, really put a mental resiliency in this UBC program that benefited them last year and can only have added to that this year. They seem to be handling the pressure better than most of the teams that we've seen
and
here
of course,
at Nationals, especially on the showcase field.
And of course, last year in their championship game against Carleton, geographically in Washington, they were far closer to their home in British Columbia, and the crowd wasn't necessarily on Carleton's side, so they had a lot of folks cheering for them in that stadium, but the fans not feeling that way here in Rockford as the T-Birds O-line giving and going all the way to the red zone. Bolin once again surveying. Finds Kurahashi coming into the front of the defense, and an easy flip into the end zone there. Mandy Lee, the goal scorer for the T-Birds.
UBC is doing something very differently after that timeout with their O-line than they were doing beforehand. They're moving the disc shorter distances, but very quickly. You'll see them get the disc, go, and then go to the next person. That's the score, and it was end zone. But they did that all the way down the field. They have players like Claire Wang pushing really deep and then stepping back towards the disc. And once the T-Birds got past that first layer of defense, they did not stop moving. And that's what you have to do to break a zone. The zone thrives on holding the disc and sitting in the space. And so the T-Birds are tactically changing what they're doing very effectively.
And talking to Edward Guo, Jonathan He, the rest of the leadership, as we hear the sidelines pumping in the energy and the noise here in Rockford, they mentioned the intentional tactical shift coming into this season of, we didn't want our offense to be this one-dimensional thing that just isolates big cutters in space. We needed to develop reliance on our handlers, on the ability to use the break side, on the ability to systematically churn through smaller spaces. And to your point, Katie, it looks like that's paying off right here. Philippek up line to Yip. Here's the shot to the end zone for Hawkins, intercepted. And the counterattack is on for the T-Birds. Big swing over to Marshall. Marshall surveying before deciding to settle for the swing to Shaylin Wu. Brielle Wong up to Emily Ma. Throw down the line. Is that going to connect? It does not, and Philippek has the disc just outside the red zone. High release flick, swatted off the line, but caught by Bear. Here's Filipek. Another high release backhand, and Bear threw it into the end zone to McCotter-Hewlett.
There was a pick before that away from the disc
Back to where you
involving,
were
I think, Hawkins and McKinley-Smith.
So the disc is going to stay with Harper Bear, the 22-year-old from Carborough, North Carolina. Brown checks it back in play and throws it into the turf.
20 seconds.
Marshall picks up, and the Stanford transition zone sets up. Ma. Izzy Lynn. I beg your pardon, that was Shaylin Wu. Marshall now up to Izzy Lynn, who pulls the trigger. Filipek defending, and Filipek gets the block for Superfly.
Filipek does such a good job of using her speed to get Ds. She runs there faster than the other player and then uses body position relative to the other player in order to get the block.
Filipek, too far for Bear. Break chance here for the T-Birds.
You know, there have been a lot of turnovers, and I was looking at this. It's still on serve. So there's been a lot of turnovers, but these conversions of the break opportunities have really not been there.
So far, 5 turnovers in this point. UBC, if you look at break opportunities as occurring in a single point, not, multiple turnovers in a single point. UBC 0 for 2 on breaks so far. Stanford 0 for 3. Can the T-Birds strike first with a break?
This game is going to come down to patience, right? Stanford's zone, the positioning of the mark means you have to go over, you have to go around before you can head towards the end zone. You have to hit the windows. And the Thunderbirds have been patient in moving the point of attack, but they're making it a little bit difficult, and they haven't been able to punch one past once they get it over that initial cup or wall defense.
Marshall trying to encourage the reset handler to come crash into that cup. Look at how responsive that downfield set in the zone was to that one fake from Marshall, and now back the other way into the end zone. That's Izzy Lynn, and she's got the first break of this semifinal.
Yeah, utilizing that kind of break in the wind to do those, what I would call elevator backhands, where it's flat and it goes a little bit up and a little bit back down. And they went over the defender into the space, and they were patient enough to find a way over the top.
What a point for Lynn, who had a deep block earlier in this sequence. And how about Marshall directing traffic and engineering that break for the T-Birds?
Yeah, not throwing it away, but that's the elevator pass I'm talking about. Goes up and in, and didn't even know she was inbounds. There's another look at the shock realization. They worked hard for that point. Just inbounds.
Izzy Lynn, the 21-year-old from Burnaby, British Columbia, giving the T-Birds a 4-2 lead. It's a group that went 14-5 in the regular season. Undefeated so far, 15-0 in the series. That's a conference championship, a regional championship, and hoping to vie for a national championship tomorrow. Filipek Low initiator caught by McGinley-Smith. Trying to reset. The clamps coming on now from the T-Birds matchup defense. Davy Weir not on the same page as Philippek.
Yeah, that's one of the things about defenses is you get to determine with your positioning the shape that the offense has to work with.
Nice grab there by Claire Wang. Kurahashi back to Wang out into space. Lauren Zito Fung back to Marshall. Back out there again this point. Kurahashi down the line, it's good! Brielle Wong has the second break in as many points for UBC.
As we watch these teams try to figure it out, you can see that the defensive pressure caused that turnover, and then not able to set a zone because it was closer to the end zone, and the person matchup, Brielle Wong just gets super open, falling into their regular offensive pattern, going up line, hitting those other cutters upfield. Stanford looking a little bit defeated because they have worked so hard in those first several possessions in order to make the zone work, but when UBC gets going, they're hard to stop.
Back-to-back breaks for the T-Birds. Stanford taking a timeout to regroup, down 5-2.
The 2026 USA Ultimate College Championships are presented by Discraft, proud home of the Ultrastar, the official disc of USA Ultimate, built for flight and trusted by the game's best.
UBC up 5-2 on a 3-0 run after holding and rattling off two consecutive breaks, the first of this semifinal. The winner of this one will face Carlton Syzygy in the national title game tomorrow on ESPNU. UBC certainly looking forward to a potential rematch of the 2025 final that they won on Double Game Point in Washington last May. Yep. Up to McGinley-Smith. Bounced off the line to Philippek. McCotter-Hewlett. Bear streaking across. Philippek up the line, can't hang on to it. Marshall picking up once again for the T-Birds D-line. She's been such a calming, effective field general for this D-line offense so far. Goodness. Shaylin Wu wasn't even looking back at the disc when that throw went up, and the sideline shouting got her attention so that she could make that grab. Marshall up the line to Izzy Lynn. Emily Mott. Stoppage away from the disc. Conversation here between McCotter-Hewlett and Izzy Lynn.
So you can call an injury, or what are you calling?
I'm not going to call.
Okay, so there's no call. All right. This is
hard to speculate there. For a second, it sounded like there was a question about an injury.
Well, it seems like there was absolutely no call, but stopped play. That was very strange.
Yeah, perhaps the British Columbia player was retracting whatever was initially called. But we resume here. This is a break chance for UBC. In the middle of a 3-0 run. That swing is caught by Emily Ma.
UBC is finding holes in this space over the top. It's one of the things you give up when you do a zone. You're overcommitting players near the disc to make the throws hard, but there is a lot of space in the back. And UBC's finding it.
Blade up to Marshall. Backhand to Brielle Wong. Marshall faking again. Marshall now just a few yards outside the end zone. Stanford staying committed to the zone. Elevator backhand, not eaten up by the wind. That works. Here's a throw to the back of the end zone. Lauren Zito Fong has the third straight break on a 4-0 run for the T-Birds.
Just like that.
Sometimes I like to think about zones like a casino defense, in that you're always playing the odds. The more throws that the other team makes, the chance of a turnover goes up. But when you have a team like UBC who just refuses, right, when they really knuckle down, when they really are disciplined, they don't make mistakes. They've thrown a lot of passes, and they have players who have the athleticism to keep running and keep thinking, right, which is maybe more important as they run. But Stanford, hasn't necessarily proved that they can go person for person defense with anyone this season. They have used their tactics, and they're actually using the energy maybe.
Let's check in on the sidelines with Manisha Daryani. Manisha, what are you seeing in the stands and on the sidelines?
First of all, when you have fed college students, they get rowdy. Dinner has been served down here. These players are having a good time. But I got to tell you, they're really rooting for something to happen here. They're looking for a game, and they're just waiting to explode to see if it happens.
Over your shoulder, as we get a turnover here from Stanford. Over your shoulder, I saw the Yale men's team also named Superfly, and my understanding, Slap, is that Stanford did not know that there was a men's team named Superfly until they got to this tournament.
Well, the dominance of the Stanford Superfly would belie the fact that they would have the dominance over the name Superfly. But yes, there is another Ivy League school, Yale, called Superfly. And the wonderful thing about this weekend has been to see both teams supporting one another. Yesterday, Stanford Superfly supporting Yale. Today, Yale Superfly supporting Stanford.
Great stuff, Slap, and it's now a 5-0 run for the defending champs, who are pouring it on in the first half. Kind of hard to believe that's the first goal of this game for Mika Kurahashi.
Mika is a player who is slotting into an offense where there are a lot of other cogs and moving pieces, of which she is willing to be one. Not taking over. That's the throw from Harper Bear that was too low. And I would say that UBC has figured out this zone and the wind dying. I am seeing dead flags on the side, and the heat after so many really tough games for Stanford, I think is advantage UBC.
Yeah, Stanford does have some more mileage, one extra game played relative to UBC, and great to see Mika Kurahashi healthy and competing here. A goal, an assist, and a block to her credit so far in the semifinals, as Stanford takes its second timeout of the first half. Katie, what do you think this Stanford team can do to get back in this one? I'll interrupt you for just a second. This is UBC's performance against Vermont in the semis last year, a largely one-sided affair. Marshall was a hero for that team last year as well, and Kurahashi and Ella Bolin connecting for the game winner.
You can see the players there from UBC on the sideline all smiles, and the players on the field all, covering their eyes as the sun goes down, trying to look at those matchups. You asked me what it would take for Superfly to make a comeback, and I think it's going to take a little bit of heroics, a little bit of luck, right? Maybe a gift, a breath of wind, and I think it's going to be trying all of the things in their bag. They've tried these different zones. They're going to have to keep throwing them. They're really just going to have to score first.
Can they do that here? Because if they don't, it's going to be UBC with an 8-2 lead at half. That mark shutting down the around, forcing the bailout, looking for Speaker Cotter, and she's got it!
There's going to be a stall called on that throw, but I agree, absolute heroics from Speaker Cotter and Kwan, who was underneath.
Okay. So the observer ruling is that it was a stall. Okay.
And the observer rules
back here
that it was a stall.
Hold our spots.
The British Columbia defense shutting down the reset, forcing what was effectively a coverage sack, because that throw did not get off before the TN10 came out of the mark's mouth. Emily Ma with the ground check. And we resume play here. Disc in the hands of Marshall. This game was 2-2 not too long ago. Stanford blinked, and they're down 7-2.
I think I have likened UBC to a meat grinder or a buzz saw, but it can be death by 1,000 cuts, and they come so quickly. Once they figure it out and they get going, they just slice through defenses. Speaker Cotter, however.
Yeah, the interception and excitement from Speaker Cotter's interception is slightly muted by the fact that Marshall got fouled.
I'm just sad for Speaker Cotter's stat line, because both of those plays were incredible.
Speaker Cotter, the former D1 soccer player, coming up with the intersection that will not be called back. And Stanford gets a much-needed hold after multiple turns on that point. Signs of life from Superfly.
Look, we were talking about that. We talked about their body language being down. But this is a team that grinds. This is a team that keeps fighting. And UBC, in their last two meetings, they went both ways, right? Stanford took one and UBC took the other. And I think that this game, if Stanford can really connect the dots, be precise with the throws, like this one to Sage McKinley-Smith, they can make a comeback, right? Stanford is dangerous that way.
Well, for those of you unfamiliar with Freya Speaker-Cotter's game, A, you shouldn't be, but B, we mentioned a former D1 soccer player competed for Stanford at the College Cup 3 times. Freya actually played one tournament with Superfly in 2024 and unfortunately quickly realized, hey, I can't really do a varsity sport and a club sport at the same time, but her time as a center back for Stanford came to an end earlier this year, and the way she's been leveling up and developing her ultimate specific field sense is something that the coaches and leaders of Superfly cannot say enough about.
Proving why with those called back catch, called back D, and then eventual D.
Here's Bolin. Gets the swing off and tries to get it back. Bolin playing catch with Grace Liu, and now looking in the direction of Nina Tsai, but throwing it over her head.
And I have to point out that's a very different defensive scheme than we've seen Stanford throw before.
What was different about that set relative to what we saw?
I think it's a pull play, stopping play, and an Ella Bolin stopping play. Marking her tightly and then taking away her favorite backhand angle.
And Stanford turns it right back over, but are we going to have a foul?
I don't know if it was catchable, but there was certainly a lot of contact that I think should be avoided.
I think Lambert was the intended receiver.
Would you like to make a call, or are you not making it?
Looks like dangerous, but I also think it was just a talk.
So Yip trying to connect with Lambert.
So foul, but not a receiving foul because the play was on the disc was not there. Is that what you're saying?
I don't think I realistically don't think anyone could have called that.
It's your decision.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, so there's no call.
Is everyone okay?
So for the second time this half, we're a little confused about either a non-call or a retracted call. British Columbia ripping deep right away. Bolin intercepted by Speaker-Cotter. And the throw to Yip hits the turf. Is Stanford having a case of the yips with the disc in its hands?
No, I think they're tired and they've just been asked to execute too much.
One more block for Speaker-Cotter. And Superfly stays alive here in the first half. McKinley-Smith. Up to Bear. Throw to space. Caught by Lambert. Off the line to Bear. Stanford still hunting for its first break of the game. And they've got it. Lambert finishes it off. After defensive heroics from Speaker-Cotter, and no Philippek on the field that point.
Here we're getting another look at that Speaker-Cotter D in that deep space. Bolin puts this one out, and Speaker-Cotter read it. You could see Claire Wing thinking about calling a foul, but ultimately didn't, and I think that's a good no call. And then they worked it up against that person defense, finding this against the flat mark, and you see that space in the middle leading. Really good work from the Superfly line.
So UBC has taken a timeout. Remember, we were at 7-2. UBC could have broken to take half 8-2, but Stanford has since gotten a dirty hold and its first break of this game. So circle that swing if we come down to the wire. But right now, UBC in control 7-4 in the second semifinal here at the College Championships.
DC Shadow are your 2025 Premier Ultimate League champions.
UBC receiving here against Stanford, trying to hold and take half in the second women's semifinal here at the 2026 USA Ultimate D1 College Championships. Bolin connecting with Kurahashi. Marshall back to Bolin. Harper Bear marking Bolin on this point. Bolin going every other, down the line, off the hands of the bidding receiver, Mandy Lee. And Stanford gets another break chance here.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that UBC took that timeout. Every time that Stanford has found a defense that works or slows down and stops their defense or their offensive line, they stop and talk about it, and the offensive line is very responsive in changing it. Stanford just hasn't been able to punch back the other way until the previous point.
Here's Speaker Cotter leading Bear. Bluffs the backhand. Resets to Philippek, who's out there for this deep point. The swing got partially deflected, but Philippek caught it anyway, floated it to Speaker Cotter. The flip to Bear, continuing into the end zone. That's a goal for Annika Kwan. Stanford going on a little run of its own. 3 unanswered for Superfly.
Yeah, they were able to capitalize after the UBC. The away pass in the end zone just went too long. They were on a tear up that sideline, and Lee was so close to getting it back. This goes up over the top, I think intended for Bear, but goes to Speaker Cotter, gets it, and then that lefty flick to Kwan, who again has had that injury to her finger and a little bit tentative with the top hand. You can see catching with the arm, but that counts. That's in bounds and a score for Superfly.
So Annika Kwan broke a finger on her throwing hand after Pres Day, and she played lefty at sectionals and regionals, and then here at the national championships broke her finger, another finger on her right hand against Penn. Didn't play against Vermont or Georgia, started to play again in the bracket, and having an impact here for Superfly in the semis. Great to see her competing after missing much of 2024 and 2025 with other injuries as the sidelines and the stands come to life for Superfly. Bolin. Stanford's defense clearly mucking up the pull play there for UBC. The swing to Mandy Lee. She gets it back. Here's Marshall. And turnover only occurred there because of a foul. Uncontested by Yip. Claire Wang resetting, but the pass is broken up, and Was that a Stanford player calling a foul after the block?
I don't know. It looked like a clean block to me. Confusing.
In any event, it's Stanford's disc.
Was Davey Weir with the block.
Philippek with the high release backhand. Philippek gets it back. Bluffs one. Connects with Hawkins.
Hawkins and Marshall matchup is fun to watch in the backfield.
Yep. Back to Philippek. Leading her to space with her body language and the disc. Speaker caught her to the end zone. Don't look now. It's a 4-0 run for Superfly.
I don't know what was on my bingo card before this game, but it wasn't this. I expected a close game. We are now there, 7-6, but goodness gracious how we've gotten here.
The 5-0 run for UBC that could have been a 6-0 run if the T-Birds had converted a break chance has been answered by a 4-0 run from Stanford.
Seeing a very tired-looking Ella Bolin walking back. Speaker caught her, finds the hole in the defenders. There was a deeper player. Hawkins has done so much running, pulling the deeper defender, allowing Quan to get open. Really great trust and spacing from the Stanford cutters, because once they get through, they're moving and continuing the disc down.
Second goal and as many points for Quan. And there you see on your screen the 5 blue rectangles for the 5 goals in a row for the T-Birds, followed by the 4 maroon rectangles for Stanford. And Superfly was offside on the pull. The T-Birds elect to take advantage of that. So Bolin will walk the disc up to the brick mark, marked by Baer. Marshall, back to Bolin. Inside throw, floating, great adjustment and save by Nina Tsai. Marshall. Bolin. Claire Wang. Beg your pardon, Brielle Wong into the end zone for Bolin. And the T-Birds stop the bleeding after conceding 4 straight. They'll go into the half with a 2-goal lead.
To be a fly on the wall in both of those halftime huddles, semis are the best for this reason. Their seasons are on the line. There's everything to play for, but they have been through the mill. And Stanford has played an entire game more than UBC, and they had a really tough game against Santa Cruz. But Bolin cutting up line, being marked by Baer. That was a fun matchup to watch between the two handlers.
Well, you said you want to be a fly on the wall in these huddles. Lucky for us, we're going to get to talk to some of the coaches here at halftime and ask them about those huddles. UBC trying to get back to the title game. Up.
And the DC Shadow are your 2025 Premier Ultimate League champions.
UBC coach Edward Guo with an 8-6 lead here at the half. Edward, this first half was one of runs, a 5-0 one for the T-Birds, a 4-0 response from Superfly. Why do you think the first half unfolded that way?
I think both teams have particular strategies that they like to run. We more person-based, they're more zone-based, and I think it took both teams a bit to adjust to what the other team is doing, and I think we adjusted maybe a bit at the first, and then their new defensive looks kind of stifled us a bit and confused us, and then they got into the offensive rhythm. So I think the second half will be interesting to see how both teams readjust to these adjustments.
Talking about those readjustments, do you have anything specifically you're going to try against this Stanford side?
Honestly, not really. I think we moved it up pretty good most of the time. They have some very talented athletes and players that can read the play really well, and I think maybe if we take a little second to see where they're jumping to, we can prevent a few turnovers. But I think overall, I don't think we need to change too much. We're just going to maybe take a quick beat, not to throw the first thing that looks open, because they have very smart defenders that are able to just take away these lanes quickly.
Coming into this semifinal, no one has scored more than 8 goals on you all, and talking to some of your other coaches before this game, they said, look, our greatest competition has been ourselves. Now that you've seen what Stanford has put on the field in the first half, do you think that's still the mindset, or is this Stanford team the toughest test you've faced here at the tournament?
I think the Stanford is a very strong team, no doubt. I think, I'll be honest, they are the toughest team we play at this tournament. They have a lot of unique things to their offensive and defensive identity that we haven't practiced so much this season, even though we play them twice a year. But I think that everything is still within our control, though, and I think as long as we stick to our game plan, and I think both teams are turning it over a bit more than we want, and it's going to be just about how they respond to the turnovers, either team.
Really appreciate your time and honesty, Edward.
Thank you.
Good luck in the second half.
Thank you.
So one of the great traditions here on semifinal Sunday is the presentation of the Callahan Awards. Let's go over to public address announcer Steve Dunn to do the honors.
Please turn your attention to the USA Ultimate banner in the northwest corner of the field for the presentation of this year's Callahan Award in the men's division. Since 1996, the Callahan has been awarded to the most valuable players in college ultimate, one each in the men's and women's divisions. These outstanding athletes are the players who best display exceptional athletic ability and skill, combined with outstanding leadership, sportsmanship, and dedication to the sport of ultimate. What makes the award even more special is that Callahan winners achieve this great honor by earning the respect of their peers. This award is voted on entirely by current college players. Here to help present this year's award, our 2025 Callahan Award winner from the University of Cal Berkeley, Dexter Clyburn. National College Women's Director Beth Nakamura, and USA Ultimate College Manager Matthew Borland. First, we'll recognize the 5 finalists in the men's division, and after we've done that, we'll announce the 2026 Callahan Award winner from the men's division. And now for your finalists. Adam Grossberg has helped create a culture of hard work, community, and laughter in his 4 years in the college ranks, culminating in Georgia Tech's first appearance at the college champs in 14 years. His commitment to bettering himself has helped his team grow and develop, and has also resulted in Adam competing at the highest levels of the sport, from youth to college to club, as well as international appearances with the U20 and U24 U.S. national teams. Adam has had an outsized impact on his team during this college career, and they are proud to have him as their Callahan nominee. From Georgia Tech, a tribe called Tech, Adam Grossberg. Anton Orm started playing ultimate at an early age, having picked it up during 6th grade. He arrived at Cal Poly as an already well-seasoned competitor after having played through high school and with a Bay Area YCC team. 5 years later, he has collected many accolades in the college division and developed into a leader for his team. He has also played at the highest levels of club competition and represented the U.S. as part of the U24 national team last year. His teammates are proud and excited to name Anton as their Callahan Award nominee. From Cal Poly San Luis Obispo Slow Corps, Anton Orm. Miles Grovick has developed into one of the most dynamic and impactful players in the college division. On the field, he contributes big plays as well as consistent effort and leadership, always setting the tone for his teammates. His combination of playmaking and leadership abilities has helped elevate his entire team, propelling them back to the college championships for the first time since 2018 and to their best finish in team history. Miles has taken his work ethic and talent and turned them into an already successful Ultimate career that started in high school and has extended through the college, club, and international levels. From the University of Maryland Ultimate, Miles Grovick. Xavier Fusat started his Ultimate journey playing at the youth level with the Dallas area YCC team. Since coming to Austin, his college career has been defined by resilience. After 2 ACL tears in his first season, he used his rehab time to coach youth and rediscover his love for the sport. He returned to the field with a bang, helping the team back to the college championships and leading them in goals and assists. He is a 3-year captain, and in each of those years, along with his playmaking ability, his leadership, competitiveness, humility, and happiness have helped define Texas Tough. From the University of Texas Tough, Xavier Fusat. Zeke Thorson is a homegrown hero, having grown up in and around Boulder, Colorado, and also around the game of Ultimate. After playing both middle school and high school Ultimate in Boulder, Zeke migrated down the road to join Mama Bird. He elevates those around him while reinforcing the effort and accountability that defines his team. Zeke also embodies the long-standing culture of Mama Bird: humility, grit, and a care for others. He competes with respect and relentless effort, even at the highest levels of the sport, and is an incredibly deserving Callahan nominee. From the University of Colorado Mama Bird, Zeke Thorson. Let's give another big round of applause to all of your 2026 finalists for the Callahan in the men's division. And now, please put your hands together for this year's Callahan Award winner in the men's division. From Colorado Mama Bird, Zeke Thorson. Congratulations, Zeke, and thanks for all that you do for our great sport.
Well, what a moment for Zeke Thorson and the Mama Bird program.
Let's hear it one more time for Zeke Thorson, your 2026 Callahan Award winner.
Zeke's happy now, but he's got some more work to do. A semifinal against Cut coming up. And let's turn our attention back to this semifinal. Shayla Harris, kind enough to give us some time on the headset. Shayla, can you take us inside the halftime huddle and what the team's been saying during this extended break?
I mean, our huddle so far, and apologies for my voice, has been like a celebration of that fight to get back in this game. We just told our players like how much pride we have and the fact that like when we're down, we don't hang our heads. We just get out and work harder. And I think that showed in the way, we went on a run at the end of that half.
Yeah, a very impressive run. I saw you making some tactical changes. The zone's not necessarily getting the turns that you want or used to. Do you have more tricks in the bag to throw at this UBC team?
We always have more tricks, and we don't like to do any one trick too many times in a row, so you'll definitely see some more in the second half.
Do you have a thought on why these teams traded those runs? The T-Birds going on a 5-0 run and then you all responding with the 4-0 run?
I don't have a formulated thought right now, but I know, part of this is also a mental game. Like, this is a big stage for both of these teams to be on. There's some win conditions, and then there's a lot of momentum that you get with the crowd and with the scores. So I think both teams feel that at different times, and part of it is, keeping your cool under pressure.
What do you think Freya Speaker-Cotter is feeling? She's competed, of course, in the College Cup, but here in her first USA Ultimate D1 College semifinal.
I mean, I think she's feeling intensely competitive. She's not, obviously she's gotten, I think, 5 blocks this half, but I don't think she's going to be happy with that. She's not going to be happy until we finish this game out. So I think that's her attitude. Team first.
Shayla, thank you so much for your time. Good luck in the second half. Superfly trailing 8-6 here in Rockford as these teams look to regroup after an extended break. And it was a steady start for Superfly. These teams were tied at 2 through the first 4 points. Turnovers back and forth, of course. And then the run started, Katie.
Absolutely. I honestly thought that UBC was putting a nail in the coffin of Stanford's season, and then Stanford proved that they had other ideas, and they were not done with this game. They have been in this position before in that very memorable wet game against Vermont a few years ago. UBC was here last year, but they weren't really challenged in their semifinal. We'll see what that's going to be like.
Take a look at our first half stats. A big thanks to the commentary source team and the rest of our staff helping keep track of the action for you all. 39 turnovers in total in that first half, 13 blocks, and you heard Shayla Harris call it out, 5 blocks for Freya Speaker-Cotter.
And really, it's those break conversions. They're finally starting to get there. The blocks have to be the story for me, though. That's the biggest difference right now between those two teams.
Manisha Daryani has been hanging out on the sidelines. You've been getting the vibe. What do you think that extended break for the Callahan ceremony means for these teams as the second half gets underway, Slap?
Well, Katie, I agreed with your comment that Stanford did look tired. So there's a lot to be said that this extended break may actually benefit Stanford. Perhaps I spoke too soon.
First throw turnover going off the hands of Esther Philippek, but Superfly recovering into its zone quickly. Shaylin Wu with the disc now for UBC. Emily Ma faking, floating, caught by Wu, and she gets wrecked. Siobhan Yip, the defender in the area. I frankly wouldn't be surprised to see a card here.
Yeah, comes in a little bit horizontally, tries to get it and get up, but just comes in too much looking at the disc and unaware of the positioning of the other player.
I have 18 dangerous. 18 dark.
Yeah, and
that's fine.
always wanting to take a minute.
I don't have no play. I just didn't
let players get up. It looks like an injury substitution for.
So Shaylin Wu is going to step off, helped by longtime medical staffer Stephen Mogatis. And
a yellow card.
What a substitution there. Mika Kurahashi coming on. And then Siobhan Yip being issued a yellow by observer Sam Shapiro. If Yip accumulates another yellow, she'd be ejected from this game. If either team accumulates 5 yellows, they would then forfeit the game. But I don't think we've seen enough physicality to be worried about that happening so far.
I honestly never want to see that happen.
Kurahashi adapting as the marks shifted back. She turned back upfield, and who else but Marshall open in the end zone.
Well, it has been a game of runs, and we talked about that longer break benefiting Stanford, who looked tired, but it could also very much have benefited UBC, as we're seeing that out of the hand of Filipek, who had time during the half to actually strategize, to really talk about the zones and what they were going to do. And this team is in many ways a coach's dream, because what the coaching staff is doing, they're adjusting so much.
You feel like you saw any notable adjustments from UBC there on that point?
Well, that zone was flat in the middle, and they clearly knew that the way to break it is to go to the side and then up the field. And they did it immediately without hesitating. They weren't looking at other options, and that to me says that the team is bought in and trusts the tactical messaging that the coaches are giving them. It looks like they're staring directly into the sun in that advantage, and as the sun is setting, we're going to probably see the light potentially affect throws.
So no one communicating there on the pull reception. Yip has to run back and center it to Filipek.
Or they lost it in the sun.
I beg your pardon. And there's a turnover, but a foul called by Filipek on Marshall.
I think on the play, I hit the disc fully before anything.
Right, but before that, I was trying to call a foul.
Sorry, can you just, explain? Because from my perspective, we were both running, and I think there was a lot of contact, but I think we were both just running into the same space. And I don't feel like I was,
I feel like I was
you.
going on one way, and then you ran straight in front of me. And that's what I felt.
Okay. I do still feel like it was more incidental. I don't think I was coming into you.
Okay, so it sounds like you're calling a non-receiving foul on the cuts prior. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and so would you all like to play it as a contest and send it back, or would you like to come to me for a ruling?
I'll send it back. I'm happy to come.
You'd like a ruling? Okay, observer ruling that was a foul. And so because it's a non-receiving foul, it'll go back to the thrower here. Yep.
In on one?
Yes, it'll come in on one. So disc is yours wherever you threw from. Disc is yours.
So it was a non-receiving foul before the throw to Filipek.
So go ahead and pick it up.
So the disc is going back to the original thrower. Stanford maintaining possession and getting moving here. McGinley Smith. Up to Harper Bear. Filipek. Floating to space and not on the same page with Bear.
It's one of the dangers of Neo. She sees space differently than a lot of players, but needs a receiver to be there.
Zito Fung resetting. Big scuba fake. And UBC going through the heart of the defense there. Claire Wang staying calm. Up to Izzy Lynn, and not on the same page with Marshall. Stanford's O-line gets another chance here. Philippek almost throws into a poach, but connects with Bear. Gets it back from Yip. The throw to space is caught by Yip. Not a lot of room for error there. Philippek going up line, turning back around, gets it. Faking. Finding McGinley Smith. Connecting with Bear up line. Philippek trying to clear out a comeback. Gets it once again, and we have a call preceding that throw. So a stall was called when the disc was in the hands of Harper Bear. Yeah, did that feel like 10 seconds to you?
Absolutely not. That's so fast.
Would you all like to play it as a contest, bring it back on 8, or would you like to come for a ruling?
It's up to you. I can go to contest. If you're willing to change the fact that we're coming on 8.
Well, if it's no stall, it'll be where the throw was completed.
Okay, yeah, I'll take a ruling.
Okay, observer ruling that was not a stall. It'll be back to the receiver here.
Yeah, so it goes one continuation, so the score won't stand, but the disc advances to the next throwing point, and Stanford retains possession, and they should have no stall count.
Philippek. Stall count rising now for her. Faking. Gets it off to Bear. The throw to the far cone for Hawkins. Hawkins is inbounds, and Stanford has the dirty hold.
A very needed score for Superfly.
Yeah, after conceding that break on the first point of the second half, and Hawkins is like, yeah, that was spicy, I know.
She's giving us the thumbs up.
Let's bring Slap back in. Slap, what's going on the sidelines?
Crowd very excited to cheer on this Superfly sideline, but I also have to tell you, the Superfly sideline has done a great job of engaging this crowd. They have been pumping the sideline up, providing cheers for this sideline. It has clearly made a difference as you see this scoreline start to narrow.
And were you noticing something shifting with the wind down there?
Yes, so this wind has started to swirl just a little bit. While it became an upwind, downwind game to begin with, it's starting to now become slightly crosswind. Some of these errant throws that I think I'm seeing on the field down here as a result of this wind. And again, it remains calm for a majority of the time and consistent, and every once in a while starts to gust. Thankfully, that throw, gutting it up to that far sideline, the sideline closer to you all on the screen, was an incredible throw.
No question. And Amelia Hawkins, the goal scorer there. Amelia's parents met playing Ultimate in Seattle. And now Amelia is here competing for a spot in the national title game. Add that to the list of fantastic stories that Ultimate has done for families around the country. Here's Bolin. Floater out to space is caught. Jamie Jung resetting.
Yeah, Jung is a player I'd like to see get a little bit more involved with this offense. A really good outlet is the captain for UBC.
Grace Liu resets to Bolin. Liu swings it now. Inside, tough grab made by Claire Wang.
You can see the Stanford defenders are clamping down on the resets, making it difficult, or at least making UBC think about it a little bit more.
Bolin at the fulcrum. Mandy Lee fakes and then connects. Hits Claire Wang. And we've got a T-Bird who's taken a tumble in the end zone.
Yeah, and I'm seeing the touching of the shoulder, meaning an injury. So the contact actually happened the way, and then the discussion with the players with the disc is just on what the stall went. That's Kurahashi.
Dark, you can sub one if you'd like.
Coming off the field.
So Kurahashi takes the injury substitution. We think it was non-contact. She's limping a little bit as she walks off, and Marshall takes Kurahashi's place. Still T-Bird's disc. Bolin toes the line.
Harper Bear doing such a good job of stopping that inside backhand of Bolin.
Marshall going every other now.
Well executed switch on the defenders.
Inside to Bolin. Claire Wang is on the money. The T-Birds up by 3 once again. See Kurahashi getting some medical attention there from medical staffer Stephen Mogatis. And Slap, you were tracking Kurahashi earlier this tournament. This isn't the first time you've seen Kurahashi take an injury.
That is correct, Ian. So I had the opportunity to call the quarterfinal games between UBC and Colorado. And in that game, Kurahashi took an injury after a fall in the end zone. Now, she did return to the game, but I had asked whether or not there might be some indication that this might be a lingering injury, which perhaps seems to be thematic for some of our women division players.
So we hope that Kurahashi gets the treatment she needs. And let's go back to the Santa Barbara invite here. Kurahashi competing with the T-Birds, defending against Carleton, bidding against Fisher, and we believe that is the bid where she sustained a concussion, the second of her career, first of this season, and sidelined her for a good portion of the spring. Stall count rising here for Philippek as Superfly's O-line is back out there. Speaker Cotter with the tough grab and can't connect with the intended receiver, Quan. I beg your pardon, that was Davey Weir. And surprise, surprise, Stanford sets up its transition zone, something that not every team does and not every D-line offense has to deal with. Brielle Wong and Dora McCotter-Hewlett having a conversation here. I believe Wong called a violation on McCotter-Hewlett.
May have. Yeah, I don't have the actual conversation here, but it looks like a potential double team call, maybe not dropping the call. There was a little bit of a point to another thing, but sometimes if the players don't use hand signals, we are mystified as to what is going on. But I will say that this is maybe a theme across the tournament, is that, at least for my money, players do not know the rules as well this year. And as a self-officiated sport, I would urge all of you to look at the rule book, because it will make all of these games go a lot faster.
Sorry, I said 8 and then I went back down to 7.
So it sounds like Brielle Wong is saying that McCotter-Hewlett counted too fast, called fast count. The resolution is a contest. We're going to resume at stalling 6. And there's the reset. Wong goes through the front of the zone. Marshall faking now.
Now they're really crashing the cup in the same pattern over and over again.
The swing goes off the hands of Shaylin Wu. A drop for the T-Birds in the red zone. Cotter Hewlett hanging it, and it's caught. McGinley Smith with another heroic reception and a continue to Speaker Cotter for the Stanford score.
That is open side forehand flow all the way down the field. And that only works if all of your putters, right, are really willing to run immediately on the turn and then throw the next throw. Notice that Esther Philippek started with it, but didn't have to go get it every other. Wasn't asked to do this. I think almost every single player on Superfly touched the disc going upfield, and you can see in the background players cutting for the next option, trusting that their teammate is going to get it and leading into space. Speaker Cotter gets the goal, but that is a full team effort from the Stanford 7.
Sage McGinley Smith, 23-year-old from New Hampshire, with the assist there. Played for New York Bent last summer and was an all-state hockey player growing up. Now the T-Birds are the ones looking into the sun.
It's intense, and I was down on the field for the last game, and the turf is pretty hot. So even though the wind is blowing, it is warm down there. Something we really haven't experienced at this tournament, which has had a lot of different weathers.
And thanks to a heads up from Slap, we noticed that Mika Kurahashi is back out there for this point. For the T-Birds O-line after taking an injury substitution earlier. Ella Bolin with the stall count rising. Connecting with Claire Wang. Kurahashi gets the next under. Big pump fake. Connecting with Mandy Lee. Kurahashi gets it back and fakes again. Another reset to Lee. Here's Bolin. Claire Wang is next. Philippek on the mark. Great dump defense from Harper Bear. The stall count is rising. The break throw goes up. Oh, and Ella Bolin makes the catch and gets leveled. That absolutely has to be a yellow. And that could be a red, as Bolin is in serious discomfort. Here's one more look. The stall count was rising. We had the attempted break throw from Claire Wang. It floated, giving multiple defenders a chance to converge on that spot. Let's see if we can bring in, here in our booth for the first time, Jana Hamaker, as we get a slow-mo look at the contact. What rules, what are you thinking about that could be at play as you assess this one?
So obviously you're going to be looking at first, a receiving foul. If there's contact in the air that causes, that could affect the play. But then for a dangerous play, what you're looking for is something like dangerously aggressive behavior or behavior that poses a significant risk of injury. And in this case, we will see what they end up ruling on the field. But the first order of importance here is taking care of the player that's hurt.
Yeah,
and then
I was like, can you talk me through? We talked about a yellow card or a red card. Like, what is the difference between those two things in terms of the rules?
Great to see Ella Bolin walking off. Sorry to interrupt you. Just wanted to point that out. Jonna, please continue.
Sure. So a yellow card is for...
and that's a yellow card that's been issued to Lambert.
Yep. So they issued a yellow card for this for most likely dangerously aggressive behavior. So she came in really fast on that and too hard. The difference here would be on a red card if it was... So usually you see a lot of horizontal movement and coming into the back, and you'll see more, you might see more head or knees or ankles, things that are sure to cause injury.
And it looked to us, we have the benefit of replay, like the principal point of contact there was the head and the upper torso. But great to see Bolin walking off onto the field. And I mean, that is the toughest and one we've seen so far at this tournament, as Bolin held on for the score, and the T-Birds have an 11-8 lead here in the semi.
It's one of those things where you can see that the players afterwards feel terrible about creating that, but that's two for Stanford, I believe, this game. Different players. 2 yellows,
and again, that really comes into play if we get to 5. Sorry, Katie, continue.
Yeah, but I'm going to say that the point, right, especially at this tournament, of having more of the yellow cards, more of the blue cards, is to draw a highlight to the behavior of players who are trying to, play good ultimate, but sometimes at the expense of player safety. And these yellow cards are a way to highlight things so like that player could have pulled out of that when they realized they were not going to be able to get the disc first. Those are the kind of things that we as a sport have said that we want to prioritize player safety, and the yellow cards are a way to do that.
A scary sequence indeed, and you got to wonder, what is that going to do to the energy for both of these teams? As the Superfly O-line gets back out there, the deep shot sails out the back. McCotter Hewlett with a little too much on that one, and Marshall, who's been doing everything for this team, will go back and bring us back into play with a chance for another T-Birds break.
Wow, that stoppage of play really sucked the energy out of the crowd, and deservedly so, like we said, wanting to make sure that player safety comes first, checking that Bolin was okay. But the momentum had been a little bit more in Stanford's favor, and now it feels a little bit slow again.
And that throw just slipped out of the hand of Izzy Lynn. No contact or anything. Superfly gifted the disc in the red zone. McGinley Smith up the line. Harper Bear is in the end zone. A circuitous path to a hold for Superfly.
Yeah, circuitous is a good word for that, Ian.
That's a Superfly score.
Every time I feel like I have a handle on what this game is or how it's going to go, I feel like we've had, different eras of game. We had the beginning era where they trade. We had the break era where they went. But Sage McGinley Smith has been a player who's really been involved in all of them and has definitely made an impact.
McGinley Smith now with 5 assists and a goal. And I'm with you. We had the opening stanza where the teams were feeling each other out.
And we had so many
trading
turns.
Scores. It was 2-2, and then we had the 5-0 run, and then the 4-0 run.
And then we had the long halftime with the Callahan presentation, and then coming out of it, there was a break, and then we were trading, and then we had the pot. It's everything. It's all of the things. And honestly, that is what you would want in a semifinal. But I'm just saying, like, if I'm writing the script of how this game is going, they are not following my direction. They are on their own journey, these two teams.
What do the Ultimate Gods have in store in the remaining points here in Rockford? Here's Grace Liu. Gets it up to Wang.
I was going to say, you can see their shadows so long. The sun is getting so low.
Marshall faking. Marked by Philippek here. Resetting to Liu. Mandy Lee back to Grace Liu. Tight window to Marshall. It was remiss in not pointing out that Stanford has now become the first team to score more than 8 goals against UBC in this tournament.
I'm glad you brought that up, Ian, because that had completely eclipsed my mind.
Reset to Liu. And there was a foul call, not contested. Lee had called it.
All right,
on
when y'all are ready.
Fresh count for Liu. Here's Lee. Back to Liu. Stanford mostly in person with maybe 1 or 2 far side defenders sagging. And the swing opens up the wide open continuation. What a finish there from Nina Tsai up to Mandy Lee. And British Columbia looking calm as ever on that hold.
Yeah, they figured out where that open or poached player off, right? The one person who was not being guarded as tightly. And then because the defensive player was so far away, they can't catch up in time to actually set a mark. And there's a free throw into space, and Lee elevates to get it. I think McGinley Smith was the player assigned to poach off and try to create havoc in the handler space, but UBC does a great job of finding the open person.
You see the UC Santa Cruz Slug faithful representing here in the stands.
Some flair from Nationals. One of the parents making those, and absolutely everyone was asking them, do you have more? Are you selling them? Can we get one? They're so cute, but they are handmade. So not everyone can have one, but I'm sure if the Slugs wanted to do a fundraiser down the line where they sold hats, there would be a market.
Kathy Huang on the pull for the T-Birds. Philippek looking to get things started for Superfly. Not on the same page with Hawkins there. Shaylin Wu resetting as the T-Birds hope to convert another break. And instead, that pass is incomplete. Philippek pumped the flick, then hucked it. Hawkins, the intended receiver. Great defense there from Zito Fung. The crowd does not love that foul call from Hawkins.
I agree.
See if we can listen in and get a look at a replay.
This affected the outcome of the play. Okay, I do.
Throw
agree.
goes up,
However,
and again, Hawkins is trying to get through the back of a defender that was already in the space.
Positioning because I was on this inside. When I went up with my right hand, and the disc was traveling like this. Okay. When I was going up, I had the full position, and I even felt something behind my head push into me. Okay. When I'm going straight.
How about that angle from
Okay, how do you guys want to resolve this?
Kalakovic?
What do you think I should do?
I was looking up at the sky.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go to the observer.
Okay, so we're going to restart play with the check. Observer ruling, not a foul. Hold your spot. Ground check by you. Thank you, 10 seconds.
Clear ruling from the observer. No foul, and another break chance for the T-Birds. Stanford not setting the zone on this turn, just some saggy handler poaches. Here's a rip. Well defended by Superfly. That was Ruby Gates with the block for Stanford. And Philippek will pick up once again. And based on what we saw from that last tuck, Stanford marching largely upwind, trying to get this hold.
And the T-Birds defenders are so good on those underneaths. Philippek seems a little bit hesitant to put it unless the person is really open, and that's just so hard to do against these UBC defenders.
Philippek with the high release backhand to Bear. Bear inside, caught, gets it back. Power position for a second. Hawkins stays in bounds. Philippek steaming through, and the throw is behind her. Emily Ma knocking that disc to the turf. And we have an injury substitution. Hawkins, who kind of tumbled to the ground on that grab, walking off, thankfully under her own power. And Freya Speaker-Cotter, defender extraordinaire, taking her place. And UBC takes the opportunity to bring Mika Kurahashi in for Kathy Huang.
Coming in on stall 5.
You're allowed to do that 1-for-1 substitution, so each team gets a set of fresh legs.
Zito Fung up to Izzy Lin. Kurahashi's next. Speaker-Cotter was hunting for a poach there, couldn't get it. Same for Philippek on the next throw. Brielle Wong. Kurahashi down the line. Brielle Wong is there. I tell you what, Mika Kurahashi has had a couple of exceptional same third, down the line, tight space throws throughout this game, Katie.
Yeah, she's really got that flick dialed in. The weight of it, right? The combination of spin and power goes out into that space, and it makes it easy for receivers to get Brielle Wong so fast in that space, just churning steps ahead of the defenders.
You saw on your screen just a moment ago, Ella Bolin walking back to the UBC sideline, which is a great sight to see. But right now, we got to focus on the impact Mika Kurahashi is having for this T-Birds offense.
Yeah, and her impact is maybe quieter than in previous season, but I would argue that she's gotten so much smarter and is able to attack space without having to make those big layout grabs. She's just so much better at seeing the space around her, making her teammates look good. You can see steps out wide, and the angle of that disc comes back in towards the receiver fast enough that not even Speaker-Cotter can get there.
So the T-Birds with another break. Going up by 4. And there's Ella Bolin, who got trucked by Lambert earlier. Lambert was issued a yellow card, the second yellow card issued to a Stanford player in this game. And it's great to see Bolin at least back on the sideline with her team. And a lot of work left to do here for Stanford.
And not a lot of time to do it. With 3 minutes left, that is until the soft cap. And if it takes Stanford a long time to score this O point, right, we might be playing to a game to 14. So let's keep an eye on that clock because it is going to run out.
4 breaks in the first half. for the T-Birds, and 2 here in the second. Stanford got 3 in the first half, but has yet to notch a break of its own here in the second half. 3 minutes to the soft cap. There's no hard cap on semifinal rounds.
I like that rule.
Down the line for Philippek, and she makes the grab, narrowly avoiding a collision with Lauren Zito-Fung.
And honestly, it looked like Esther was doing the majority of the work to avoid the other player. We talked about that 90-degree angle, somebody going upline and somebody coming into them at a 90-degree angle. And that's, I would say, the most dangerous article, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're talking about issuing a yellow card for that, because again, that's the same pattern that we're seeing dangerous plays happen. And here's another look at it. Philippek going up line, right? And Philippek does the work to avoid the other player coming through.
What an effort by Philippek to make the play and preserve her own safety. Excuse me, Katie.
Philippek is doing so much for this team and work, but she's so determined. You probably will have to drag her off the field. She's going to keep trying, even if her body really doesn't want to run anymore.
So a yellow card is being issued to Lauren Zito-Fung by observer Sam Shapiro. And we saw that replay multiple times. It was Philippek who had to pull up to avoid the contact.
Yeah, and I also want to emphasize that nothing that I have seen from players today is malicious in any way. It's really an awareness of body control and contact and how your body position kind of impact another player, because we really don't want to see injuries, and those are the places that we have regularly seen them in this sport.
No Ella Bolin, of course, on this O point for the T-Birds. Slap, do you have an update for us on her status?
I had a chance to talk with Coach Edward Guo, and he has indicated she will not be returning to this game.
Unfortunate break for the T-Birds, but great to see her in the tent, back on the sidelines, as her teammates navigate the Stanford zone here and try to force game point. And there's a sneaky one from Marshall to Kurahashi.
Kurahashi, very good in those small spaces. It's been a while since we've seen that zone, and we heard Coach Shayla Harris talking about how they were going to bring that back. But UBC's players have learned that. They learned the tactic to beat it, and they executed it very well against a zone that has been so difficult for other teams in this tournament and all year long. Here's another look of them swinging. You can see them get the disc ahead of where the defenders are, and they're coming into that space. Kurahashi waits and then accelerates into that pocket, jumping in, and the defender doesn't have time to be aware that she's there in order to close the window and make it impossible to throw. Marshall also does a great job of faking, right, to move the defenders, and doesn't really give away where the disc is going to go next. Ooh, and I hit the soft cap, but it isn't going to matter in this game. It is going to be a game to 15. Again, there's no hard cap, so first team to 15 wins. UBC only needs one to end this game.
Philippek and the Stanford O-line have to hold to keep this game going. Stall count rising here. Offhand caught by Philippek. She boosts it right away. Hawkins turning on the Jets. Can't get there.
You have to think that that would have worked earlier in the tournament, but we saw Hawkins go off. Hawkins has been a motor for this Superfly side. on both sides of the disc, on O and D, and just a little bit short on that one.
One of the more calming sentences for T-Birds fans. It's Marshall back to pick it up and bring us into play. Claire Wang. Stanford has to get the disc back here and score, or the game will be over with a T-Birds clincher. Here's the look to the end zone. Too far for a bidding Emily Ma. She was all alone, and she's going to take an injury after sacrificing her body, hitting the turf to try and catch that one.
Brielle Wong thought about that a little bit, hitched the throw, and then put it anyway because there was so much space. But that disc where it's coming over the back of your head and you're trying to read it is really difficult. Ma does a great job to almost get there, but that's a really difficult catch.
Izzy Lee takes her place after the injury substitution. Philippek catches and rips. What a beautiful shot there to Annika Kwan. Looking for a reset. Has to go across the field. It's hanging and it's caught. Second time's the charm, excuse me, for number 22. Amelia Hawkins, but there was a stall call.
Hang on, come back. No, well, we don't know what's happening with the disc yet.
Okay. I understand your perspective, but I feel like I was able to say 9, 10, the full word, not even just the T of 10. Like I was able to say 9, 10, and then you were still.
Okay, I think we got it. How do you guys want to resolve this?
Yeah.
Okay, the observer ruling, it is not a stall, so that's a goal. Yeah, sped up right at the end. Clear speed up.
That is not the first overturned stall we've seen from the UBC defenders, maybe just getting a little bit antsy. But Hawkins, who had gone all the way, not quite getting the first one, gets that one elevating for the score and is all smiles for that one. But they still have a little bit of a hill to climb. They need 4 breaks in a row. Is that the correct math, Ian?
12, 13, 14, 15.
That would be it. That would be it. Not surprised to see Mika Kurahashi walking out for this offensive point. But that is Coach Robin Davis and Shayla Hara talking brain trust. Time running out on them, too.
Edward Guo looking to lead this team back to the title game. Are there any other tricks up Stanford's sleeve with no room left for error?
I was going to say that player, Davy Weir, missed most of the season last year with concussion, wasn't going to come back, and then missed Frisbee, was feeling better, and has been a huge value add, not just in her polls, but all over for Stanford. Maybe a player like that, and Neo, who's still on the field. Can they do it, or will this be a Thunderbird score?
Here's the floater looking for Marshall, and of course she catches it. Jung takes the safe option. UBC can smell it. The T-Birds in the red zone. Marshall off the front. The high release to Kurahashi. She's in the end zone. And the T-Birds are going back to the finals.
Catching the winning score and cramping, celebrating on Mika Kurahashi, who's on the ground.
Well, for the first time this tournament, the T-Birds concede more than 8 goals, but Stanford's 11 scores are not enough, as Marshall and Kurahashi have their sights set on a second consecutive national championship.
I don't think I've ever seen so many players run to help with a cramp before. Amazing effort from Stanford Superfly, but the depth of UBC Thunderbirds using their roster. So many names we called. I feel like that can't totally be the number of blocks, because I felt like the Thunderbirds were just snatching it out of the air, but it was really a game of runs. But UBC, the discipline, the commitment to the goal of going to finals, they did it.
17 blocks, 53 turnovers, but one of the most consistent presences on the field was the T-Birds' Emily Marshall. Emily, congratulations on this semifinal victory. How are you feeling right now?
Thank you. Really good. I mean, yeah, I don't know. This is a pretty strong iteration of this team, and I've been on the team for a long time. And obviously, we've had a lot of ups and downs, but I think the feeling of winning the games never gets old, so it feels great. Yeah.
I'm glad you took us there, because what's it been like dealing with the pressure of being the defending champs and having that target on your back all season long?
Yeah, I think from the start of the season, we've talked a lot about like what our coach calls championship hangover. He's talked a lot about, I think our coaches in general have emphasized that it is really hard to win a championship twice, and obviously we're stoked to be going to the final and being contenders for that. But yeah, it's definitely not something we took lightly, and we were very intentional from the start about recognizing that this is a new team and a new year, and we have to put in just as much work, if not more, than we did last year. Yeah.
And I was going to say, Stanford really made you work. What was the difference in that game from your perspective on the field?
Oh, I mean, I think obviously we're a team that plays a lot of person. We aren't super used to playing zone. I know a lot of our O-line handlers like Ella, Grace will cook zones, and they love it, but all the same we don't actually practice it that much. So I think that was definitely a big adjustment, and then also having them zone our D-line was something that we're definitely not used to. So that was a big adjustment in the first half, but I think we eventually figured it out and were able to reel it in.
Yeah, I feel like some of the best players talk about they're at their best when they're not thinking out on the field. They're just in the flow state.
Yeah.
But obviously a zone like that forces you to put a little bit of thought into what you're doing with the disc before your next throw. And you were such a calming influence navigating that. Was there anything going through your mind, or was that just muscle memory out there?
I mean, I've played D-lining for a long time, and I think that's, I guess, part of the mentality that I brought into the entire game, because once we get the turn, we know how valuable the possession is. So I guess just maintaining that mindset even through the zone O was something that helped us. Just like work it in slowly, pass by pass. But yeah, it definitely wasn't easy, I will say.
It wasn't, not to move too far ahead, but winning this game tomorrow, a repeat matchup against Carleton. Seems like they've been on a revenge tour all year. Has that been something you're focusing on, or?
I mean, I think obviously we're aware that Carleton's a strong team. We've played them a few times, and every time we've played them, we've prepared for those games. But I think coming into this tournament, we knew that we'd have to take it one game at a time, and there's no point in looking too far forwards because we had to win all the other games to get there. So I think the focus will definitely be on that now that we've won. But yeah, it's been definitely just one game at a time for the last few days.
Well, we know you're now late for the team's mandatory 20 to 30-minute power nap, so we'll let you go. Thank you so much for your time, Emily, and looking forward to seeing you on the field tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. Congrats.
The T-Birds win 15-11 over Superfly, and here's one more look at the Discraft play of the game winner, and the championship cramp from Mika Kurahashi.
I really want to make a championship joke, but it's not. That's going to be tomorrow.
Okay, all right.
This is the semifinal.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here on Ultiworld. 3 semifinals down and 1 to go. Colorado versus Carleton coming up at 7:45 Central. For Manisha Daryani, Katie Killebrew, and our entire team, I'm Ian Toner. We are so grateful that you joined us here on Ultiworld. But semifinal Sunday rolls on. UBC and Carleton will meet again in the Women's Championship tomorrow. But we still got to figure out who's playing UMass in the men's final. 15-11 UBC. Carleton, Colorado coming up next.